Musk has become $138 billion richer. Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer. And Bezos has become $28 billion richer since Election Day. 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured in terms of health care. Does anyone really think that the oligarchs give a damn about ordinary? Trust me, they don't. Mr. President, we are living in an extremely dangerous time. And future generations will look back at this moment, what we do right now, and remember whether we had the courage to defend our democracy against the growing threats of oligarchy and authoritarianism. They will remember whether we stood with President Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, who in 1863, looking out over a battlefield where thousands of people had died, thousands of soldiers died in the fight against slavery, and he stated that, quote, "This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Do we stand with Lincoln's vision of America, or do we sit idly by and allow this country to move into a new vision? And that is a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, for the billionaire class. But it is not just oligarchy that we should be concerned about. Not just the reality that today 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million. 3 people, more wealth than the bottom 170 million Americans. It is not just that the gap between the very, very rich and everyone else is growing wider. And it is not just that we have more income and wealth inequality today than we have ever had. On top of all of that, the reality is that today we are moving rapidly under President Trump toward authoritarianism. More and more power resting in fewer and fewer hands. Mr. President, as we speak right now, Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on the planet, is attempting to dismantle major agencies of the federal government which are designed to protect the needs of working families and the disadvantaged. These agencies were created by the U.S. Congress, and it is Congress's responsibility to maintain them, to reform them, or to end them. It is not Mr. Musk's responsibility. What Mr. Musk is doing is patently illegal and unconstitutional and must be ended. Mr. President, 2 weeks ago, President Trump attempted to suspend all federal grants and loans. An outrageous and clearly unconstitutional act. And as I hope every 6th grader, every kid in the 6th grade in this country knows, under the Constitution and our form of government, the President can recommend legislation, he can support legislation, he can veto legislation, but he does not have the power to unilaterally terminate funding passed by the Congress. It is Congress, the House and the Senate, who control the purse strings. But in this move toward authoritarianism, it is not just the Congress that is being attacked.
Hello good people, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Awakened Africa and I'm your host Bemo. On our today's video, I'd like us to discuss about or break down Bernie Sanders' speech that he was trying to discuss, or he was trying to dismantle. The correct word is dismantle Elon Musk and Donald Trump on their way of on their system of governance, how they're governing the United States of America. And Bernie Sanders is trying to tell us that Donald Trump, together with his billionaire friends, they are running the government in a system, right? In a system that is oligarchy, all right? So Bernie Sanders gave a very powerful speech condemning the growing influence of billionaires like Elon Musk and the president, of course, Donald Trump, highlighting the rising inequality and threats to democracy and the erosion of constitutional checks and balances. So in this video, I'll just let Bernie Sanders to have his time, and then I will come back to discuss the video. But if this is the kind of content that you enjoy watching, then kindly consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up so that the YouTube algorithm can be very favorable to me and this video can be suggested to as many people as possible. Then after that, don't forget to leave a comment, because we need to have a conversation about this. And after you've left a comment, then I know this message could be very helpful to your brother or sister, so I'll ask you to hit the share button. And after that, don't forget to turn on post notifications so that every time I post a new video, you'll be the first person to get notified. Now guys, let us get down to the video.
It is our judiciary. This weekend, the Vice President of the United States, a graduate of Yale Law School, who clerked for a Supreme Court justice, said that, and I quote, "Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power," end quote. Really? I thought that one of the major functions of the federal courts is to interpret our Constitution and, when appropriate, serve as a check on the unconstitutional power of the executive. That's not just what I believe. That is what I suspect every legal scholar and lawyer in America understands to be the case. Further, Mr. Musk, meanwhile, has proposed, and I quote, that the worst 1% of appointed judges be fired every year, end quote, and he demanded the impeachment of judges that have blocked him from accessing sensitive Treasury Department files. No doubt, under Mr. Musk's rule, it will be him and his billionaire friends who determine who the worst judges are. And no, Mr. Musk, I must tell you, you don't impeach judges who rule against you here in the United States. You may or may not know this, Mr. Musk, but under the U.S. Constitution, we have a separation of powers, brilliantly crafted by the founding fathers of this country in the 1770s, and it has worked pretty well throughout our country's history. We have an executive branch, we have a legislative branch, and we have a judiciary. Mr. President, what we are seeing now is not just an organized attack on the power of the Congress and the responsibility of the judiciary. Mr. Trump and his friends are not just trying to undermine two of the three pillars of our constitutional government, Congress and the courts, they are also going after the media in a way that we have never seen in the modern history of this country. Trust me, that every member of Congress will tell you that the people working in the media and media organizations are not perfect. We have all had our experiences with the media. Media, like everything else, makes mistakes every day. But I do hope that every member of Congress understands that you cannot have a functioning democracy. You cannot have a free flow of information. You cannot have the pursuit of truth without an independent press. A press not intimidated by presidents of the United States, but a president who writes it and sees it the way they understand it to be. And in that regard, I want to mention to my colleagues what President Trump has done just in recent months. Mr. Trump has sued ABC and received a $15 million settlement. He has sued Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, and received a $25 million settlement. He has sued CBS and its parent company Paramount and is right now in negotiations over a settlement. He has sued the Des Moines Register for a poll results that he didn't like, and his FCC is now threatening to investigate PBS and NPR, major news outlets in our country. In other words, we have a president of the United States who is using his incredible power and the power of his agencies to go after media in this country who are saying and doing things he does not like. How are we going to have an independent media if journalists are looking over their shoulders, fearful that their reporting will trigger a lawsuit from the most powerful executive in the world? Mr. President, in the midst of all of this, I think that now is the time to ask a very, very simple question, something I think that is on the minds of millions of Americans. What do Mr. Musk, Mr. Trump, and their fellow billionaires really want? Now, it's not really taking over Greenland, the Panama Canal, all that stuff. The real question is, what is their endgame? What is their goal? What are they striving for? And in my view, the answer really is not complicated. It is not novel. It is not new. It is, in fact, exactly what ruling classes throughout history have always wanted and have always believed to be their right, and that is more power for themselves, more control for themselves, and more wealth for themselves. And in their pursuit of more power, more control, and more wealth, they are determined to not allow democracy and the rule of law to get in their way. For Mr. Musk and his fellow oligarchs, the needs, the concerns, the pain, the ideas, the dreams of ordinary people are simply an impediment to what they, the oligarchs, are entitled to. And that is really what they believe. They are entitled to all of the wealth and the power they have, and they are determined to stop anyone who gets in their way. Mr. President, this process, this phenomenon that is going on right now is not the first time that we have seen this in our country's history. As I think many Americans understand, in pre-revolutionary America, before the 1770s, before the creation of the United States and the writing of our Constitution, the ruling class of that time governed through a doctrine called the divine right of kings. The belief that the King of England was an agent of God, that God appointed him, and that he was not to be questioned by mere mortal human beings. He was appointed by God. In modern times, we no longer have the divine right of kings. What we now have is an ideology being pushed by the oligarchs, which says that as a very, very wealthy group of people, often self-made, often the masters of revolutionary new technology, and as high IQ individuals, it is their absolute right to rule. In other words, the oligarchs of today are our modern-day kings. And Mr. President, it is not just power that they want. Despite the incredible wealth that they currently have, they want more and more and more. Their greed has no end. Today, Mr. Musk is worth $402 billion. Mr. Zuckerberg is worth $252 billion, and Mr. Bezos is worth $249 billion. With combined wealth of $903 billion, these three people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million Americans. And not surprisingly, since Trump was elected, their wealth has soared. Musk has become $138 billion richer, Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer, and Bezos has become $28 billion richer since Election Day in November. Meanwhile, Mr. President, while the very rich become much richer, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured in terms of health care. 25% of our seniors in this country are trying to survive on $15,000 a year or less. 800,000 Americans are homeless, and we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And real inflation-adjusted wages for the average American worker has not gone up in 50 years. Does anyone really think that the oligarchs give a damn about ordinary? Trust me, they don't.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This is Awaken Africa, and of course, I'm your host, Bemo. So, as we've all heard, whatever Bernie Sanders was talking about, he has literally explained everything that is happening in the United States right now. Because earlier in my videos, I pointed out about the influence of the billionaire class in Donald Trump's government. And Elon Musk is said to have contributed over 230 million US dollars during the campaign of Donald Trump for his presidency. That is why Musk is a very important figure in Trump's government. That's why he even heads the DOGE Department of Government Efficiency. Now, Sanders is trying to highlight how it is bad for these billionaire and influential people to have a huge stake in government, because it brings about the system of oligarchy, whereby it is a system of government where only the influential people call the shots, right? At the expense of the poor individuals. And when we talk about the poor individuals in the United States of America, of course, these are our brothers and sisters, people of the melanated or the melanated people, people of color, talk about the black people, talk about the Latinos, the Hispanic community, talk about the Arab people, talk about the yellow race, Chinese, the Koreans, people from Far East. These are the few minority that stand to suffer in the hands of this oligarchic government. And Sanders is trying to say that Trump and his friends are really trying to insult the Constitution, because you see someone like Elon Musk, he's trying to dismantle some of these federal agencies that serve the individuals, the poor working families, And Sanders has pointed out that this system of a government being run by influential people alone is really bad, and it's going to be catastrophic, because it brings about the authoritarianism, whereby you find these people are the only one who can advise the president, and the president only listens to this group of people. Now you can't have people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg having wealth that is amounting to only 3 people have wealth that is more than the 60% of the lower class in the United States of America. That is about 170 million people. Their wealth cannot match the wealth of these 3 billionaires, Musk, Zuckerberg, and of course Jeff Bezos. So he points out the substantial portion of the American population that lives on paycheck to paycheck and lacks essential things like health insurance, and there is a need to warn the future generation that there is a need to warn the current generation that the future generation will judge the current actions regarding to the defense of democracy against oligarchy and authoritarianism. Because when you find people like Elon Musk who don't want to honor court orders, Trump himself does not honor court orders, and the founding fathers of democracy in the United States of America, people like Abraham Lincoln, they said that it is what is democracy? Democracy is a government, is a system of government of the people, by the people, for the people. So, but he contrasts it and saying that it is a government of the billionaires, for the billionaires. It's a government by the billionaires, for the billionaires, of the billionaires, whatever the case. But it is a government that only serves the interests of a few people. So the freedom of democracy has been scrapped off from the Americans, and the way how they are handling it, it brings a growing income inequality, and a growing system of inequality, and a shift to authoritarianism and President Trump. And some of these powerful people are going to mess up Africa. They're going to mess up America. So Sanders, of course, is trying to condemn Trump's attempts to unilaterally suspend federal grants and loans, labeling it as unconstitutional and abuse of power. These are powers that belong to the Congress, and each and every person knows that only the Congress has the powers to suspend some of these federal grants and loans. The president cannot suspend these stuff. So he is calling out the Congress to be vigilant, to stay vigilant, to stand with the people, to make sure that they defend the working individuals against the move by Trump and his friends towards authoritarianism, and of course this oligarchic system of government. So another thing is that Sanders has highlighted is how the Trump government is trying to censor the media, all right? Because you'll find out some media agencies have been taken to court. So it's really hard for a journalist to call out the government boldly, because they fear that they might be taken to court and be charged by the most powerful executive in the world. America has one of the most powerful executives in the world. So the way that Elon Musk and Donald Trump and of course the other billionaires that I've mentioned earlier, he's emphasizing the pursuit of power and wealth at the expense of democracy and the ordinary people's needs. And why am I saying this? While Trump was campaigning, while Trump was busy campaigning, he was saying that he was going to stand with the people, but something is not adding up, because the modern ideology promoted by the wealthy elite mirrors past beliefs, suggesting that they view themselves as entitled to wealth and influence. Because you can't, like, for instance, I hope most of us watched the press conference at the Oval Office, and how Trump and how Trump and Musk were trying to air out, or they were trying to talk to the people. You see, these people, they feel too entitled to the power, and it is high time, my brothers and sisters back in the United States, you come out and defend your democracy, defend your country, defend your constitution, because these people are going to kill America. Brothers and sisters, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you for always watching. Thank you for always supporting me. And I'd like to say that if this is your first time watching this video on this channel, kindly consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share this message with the brothers and sisters, and of course turn on post notifications so that every time I post a new video, you'll be the first person to get notified. This is A Week in Africa. I've been your presenter, Ben. It is my pleasure that I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.